once again.
Hey, you guys, thank you for coming back for another interview live with Dee Shields on Fight Night. And I have my good friend, Dave Mecca. Hey, Dave.
Blessed. Thank you for having me.
Always, always. I hope
It's
the
good to
weather
see
is
you.
treating you well. Thank you. Always.
Yeah, yeah. The weather's been a typical early winter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm always really cold that way, I bet. So I wanted to tell the people all about Dave Becca. I know who you are. It's always a blessing and a pleasure to have you as a part of my world, but the world needs to know about you as well. So let's just start with your life before the business. Where did you grow up? Tell us about who you are and where you came from.
Before, uh, so I was born in San Antonio, Texas. My parents were living in a small town outside of there called Seguin, Texas,
All right.
and so that's where uh, my journey started. And that journey has taken me from Seguin to Dallas to Boston, um, you know, back home to Austin. Uh,
Yes, ATX.
yeah, ATX.
It's the hometown.
I spent a little time in Houston, running a program there, and then I went to Chicago and Hartford, Connecticut, in my work, and
Yeah.
but residing in Boston.
Yeah.
So that's been the physical places I've been.
Right, right. Spiritually, you've probably been a lot more, right?
Yeah, yeah. The universe is definitely a powerful place, and
Yes, it is.
I've definitely been one to respect the powers of the universe, and being
Indeed.
in touch with my own spirituality. Um, so
Indeed.
yeah,
Indeed. Indeed. So I want you to describe yourself in a hashtag. What's a good hashtag for you?
Mhm. And a hashtag. On Instagram, I've got my hashtags for me and my daughter, Pop and Olive,
Love it.
Pop and Power, um, Mecca Fresh, my sneakers.
Me,
Um,
Mecca. That's my
um,
favorite. Showing us your world.
Me Mecca, yeah.
Hmm.
Man, hashtag. I think all those hashtags. I'm a father, you know,
Yeah.
and I love. I'd have hashtags for my work. Like when I was at the hospitals and different places. To document my work, I use those hashtags. So I'm
Yeah.
all those hashtags.
I love it.
If you don't
I
know,
love
go to
it.
Dave Mecca on Instagram and request me.
Friend requesting you're going to go on a journey indeed via his Instagram, you guys. So, Dave, I know a little about you, getting to know a lot more about you thanks to D Mecca. Let's shout out Doug Mecca. But thanks to being introduced into
Doug
your world
Mecca.
via Doug. Yeah, yeah. Well, I know a little bit about you, but what's one thing that people don't know about you?
Mm. I go into so many different communities, different environments, and we as human beings, we look at appearances and we make our prejudgments of human beings. So I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts out there for all the different people I've run into that would be surprised on many levels to learn many different things about me. I think what I, man, I've been such an open book with people. Um, I love cooking, and I'm pretty good at it. A lot of people don't know that.
Uh-oh.
Um,
I did not know
my
that.
friends, my friends know. My friends tell me open a restaurant. Uh,
Oh, okay. So when we get to New York and the Martha's Vineyard life next
if
year, you are the chef when we arrive.
I Well, when you guys are in New York, I know some good restaurants in New York. So we'll
Okay.
little holes in the walls, good food. We can go hit up some good food. But yeah, no cooking there. But when you come to the vineyard, yeah, we'll get in the kitchen and get it
Wow.
crackling.
I can see you and
Yeah,
Honey in
absolutely.
there doing some amazing things. I'll just be drinking my wine B and
Okay.
D, because
Okay.
you know how I am.
Okay.
I don't cook, I don't
Well,
clean. No, I'm joking, but I no, those are
well, the
jokes. I
well, the
cook.
vineyard's for relaxation. So,
Yeah. Dan, I thank you
so
for
come and
that.
relax.
Yeah, I sure will. I thank you for thinking about us and always being there for us. Now, you are such a, your energy, Dave, it's relaxing. So I want to know, what's your wake up ritual? You know, like, what do you, bring us into your world? How do you stay balanced in the world that we're living in right now?
Key word balance, right?
Yeah.
So I pretty much for the past, I've always been really somewhat active, trying to stay in shape. I've been fluctuating weight probably since my 30s, right? Um,
Right.
but the past, I'd say 10 years, but more specifically, the past 5 years going really hard. But I run. That
Oh,
helps
wow.
keep me
Okay.
balanced. I
Hmm.
used to play basketball, but now I don't want to blow out my knees.
Right,
Um,
right,
and I've managed not to blow out my knees or Achilles tendon or something. But what I
right.
what I
Right.
do is I've experimented over time too with juicing. I'm making juices. Um, I've
Okay.
paid attention to what I'm putting in my body, eating.
Okay.
Um, I eat somewhat on a schedule now, um,
Okay.
and I do a lot of stretching. You know, I look at the four. Get
Yeah.
up in the morning and I try to give thanks to the four corners of the earth and ancestors and
Right.
all that's living now, and do a little meditating and stretching.
Right.
And if I don't do that
Right.
first thing in the morning, I'm doing that throughout the day. So
That's
I'm not
good.
really a get up in the morning, go to sleep type of dude. I'm kind of doing things all day as it
Right.
pertains to health. Um,
That's
because
good.
I played a lot of sports, and my shoulder is like roasted, so I have to stretch to keep my core tight and not
Right.
throughout my back. I've had
Yeah.
a few good friends, teach me things, so I do those things throughout the day. Mhm.
I'm learning about stretching. I took myself into this new world of Amazon logistics, and yeah, it's a full body
Right.
workout. So I'm having to learn to really stretch.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stretching goes
Now,
hand in hand with breathing.
all
So
right.
sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
breathing
no,
and
I like
stretching.
that. Yeah.
People, we don't realize how important just take a breath. You know.
Right.
So, but your question,
I
my bad.
like that about the Apple Watch. Oh, it tells you, take a breath for a minute. Like, take and if I, without that reminder, I'll just go, 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 and the mind's always busy.
Oh
The mind
yeah,
is
yeah,
creative. And so I like that little reminder
right.
that says, yeah, it's been the best gift I've gotten. Yeah, because I need to be reminded to stop,
Right.
breathe, relax. Yeah, yeah,
We all
yeah,
do. We all
yeah.
do.
So I was gonna go next with you, as you already told us already pretty much that you have a certain time that you eat per day. How important is that to the communities that we live in? Like, making sure we watch what we eat, and then why is it so important to eat at the same time?
Uh, well, I'm not a doctor, but
I
I
know,
be
I
around a
know.
lot of doctors. I be around a lot of surgeons.
Yeah,
I think it's or health professionals, nutritionists. Um, I think it's important for you're highlighting something. I think the human condition is that we all need to be aware of what we're doing, what we're putting in our bodies.
right,
The one thing that I have is I'm addicted to cigarettes and sugar, and
right,
uh,
right,
and so it's very important for me to do all these other things to try to balance out. But it's also important to acknowledge I'm throwing poison into my body, and that's not a good thing. But I
right,
think when you look at the communities we serve, which are our communities, which are working people, which there's a lot of stress put on the mind, body, and soul. You're talking about
hmm,
people the darker skin complexion who are dealing with stress management, just waking up being black every day
Every
and
day.
going out and facing the world. So
That's
I
right.
think when it comes to like holistic health, I've learned most of the things I've learned through holistic health, just maybe by proximity, has been around people of a darker skin tone. I hate the word people of color. I think we all hate the different labels that we throw on
Yeah,
things.
that's starting to be thrown out there a
Uh,
little bit uncomfortable lately. Yeah, I feel you.
well, the longer I
Yeah.
live, the more I realize like the evolution of how we, you know, address each other. But I think it's important. If I wanted to say the original man and woman would be the best way to say person of color, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
acknowledging that these practices that I'm engaging in have all come from the original man and original woman of the earth who have tapped me on the shoulder and been like, hey, with all that you do, you got to be aware of things. You're breathing, you got to be stretching, you got to be exercising, you got to eat. So communities we serve it's like going out and serving myself. I see myself in others,
Right.
right?
That's good.
So
That's good.
um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so I'm always looking for that beauty in other people. So when you say again, going back to communities we serve, I think we need to look out for our elders and we need to look out for our young people and the people in
Yeah.
between and
Yeah.
acknowledging like wow, and which we I think as a people as a human race we're trying to wake up to what other brothers and sisters are going through, right? And so
Indeed. Indeed. We're trying. There's an effort, a small effort that
yeah,
I'm making
small.
is I shut the door on religion so that I
Mm,
could get an understanding of spirituality and the universe and people and love and unconditional, like sometimes the ritual of religion and church and positions and titles, it gets crazy in there. And so I've found a closer
mm.
connection to peace, I believe, with this new journey. So I'm seeing it out. I'm too new on it to really say, but yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing it out.
Well, uh, I hear you. Going back to
Yeah.
like again labels and whenever we get into different social constructs, there's always rules, right? And guidelines and
Yeah.
expectations. I think spirituality is definitely um, in that category, and so I anchor myself though. I think for me, I anchor myself with um, what I've been taught because that's how I started out in this world. But I
Right.
definitely jump off the bridge when it comes to like being a Christian and every time I go to New York when I was younger, I would go to Malcolm's Mosque on 116th Street and just to pray next to other people. Um,
Right.
and that's such a beautiful experience. It always brings me to tears when I'm in there just to be there.
Right.
Um, not just because I'm Malcolm, just because of the beauty that's in the room. Um, I've definitely opened myself up so many different pathways to God. But like I
That's
said,
good.
I anchor to what I was raised with because that's my foundation.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I hear you on the spirituality piece. I mean, it's ever
Finding
evolving for
finding
me
my
too.
own journey with it. Yeah, it is. It's not overnight.
Mm,
And where I come from, which is very deep, church, it's a journey. It's a journey
hmm
indeed.
hmm
Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely.
You know that. My father was amazing. So Dave,
Yes,
tell
you
us
do.
about your work with the youth and how you began that journey.
Um, so I began my human service work as a volunteer in high school at a homeless shelter, and then I got a job at the big homeless shelter in Boston called Pine Street Inn when
Okay.
I graduated high school. And I mean, I've always been hustle as much work as I can, side jobs, but my main gig was being a counselor there. And so
That's good. That's good.
um, I transitioned after um, doing some other work in group home settings, working with people who have learning, mental differences, mental learning differences, substance abuse. Um, people used to use words like mental retardation, and that those kind of
Yeah.
words are really played out when describing
Hurtful.
human beings. So you know,
Right.
definitely, yeah, and at the time, you know, you're under the you're under the influence of the world around you, and but
Right.
you have to stop as a human being and go, this mental retardation, like that just doesn't
That doesn't feel
sound right.
good.
So it's good
Hearing
to see
that.
us
That
evolve.
yeah. Indeed.
No, it doesn't,
Indeed.
does
I
it?
like seeing that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why,
Yeah.
and that's why it's important, to acknowledge the past and see where we're going in the future. I see, over my time, over my 50 years on planet Earth, we're definitely discarding trying to discard the ugliness and how we look at each other. But like I said, I moved on from working in these settings with these amazing people in service, and started working at this camp down in Texas called Sunshine Camp
Okay.
at Zilker Park. All those who are familiar
Zilker
with
Park.
Austin, Zilker Park.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
our backyard was Barton Springs, and so
Yeah. Nice.
I was a counselor there. But before I was a counselor there, I had spent 6 months going into schools and just teaching different classes. We were working with uh, young men who were in families where domestic violence was a real issue.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and so we were just I was learning to have those type of conversations with these young men about violence in the home and the effects it has. And we use ropes course to
Right.
open people up but it was a great experience. That's what kicked off my youth work. Um,
Right. The
and
passion came from there.
Well, yeah, and that was coupled with before I went down there. The reason I went down there to Texas at the time in Boston was I had I had been doing hip hop shows right out of high school. Working when I was at the homeless shelter. I started doing. I had a side gig working at a club too, and so
Right.
I was always a hard worker. So I excelled at working the door and bar back, and I was like, let me do something. Poked and prodded until they let me do a show. And
Yeah.
really, what that was a collection of brothers that I was friends with. They were my
Right.
community, and
Right.
we
Right.
were we were always looking for ways to express ourselves with hip hop, but we were also looking at ways to survive and live in Boston and not become victims of violence.
Right.
And so we would one would argue that was my first initial youth work was putting together those events with my brothers and inviting
Exactly.
other dudes from other neighborhoods and having conversations about how to make it a safe environment. How do we make it safe for you because you feel like you might need to come to the show with a gun because you're coming from this neighborhood. So it was a thing where
Right.
we would have conversation across neighborhoods and people to where when you came to the show it was all peace because back then
Right.
it was before hip hop was really a business. So um, you know
Music, the power of
violence
music
was that
uniting
was the thing.
uniting
You,
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
it, it is.
Yeah.
It's a uniting force. But that was, I mean, I was a young man doing community work. Uh,
Right.
so,
Right.
um, and not even really in the way of saying I'm doing community work. I'm just living, just trying to do the right
Right.
thing, right? So I think,
And you were on the path that you were supposed to be on. Indeed.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so um, it's interesting because I guess in my head I'm thinking right now, like youth work, whatever work I've done has just been trying to, that old saying, you're not free until others are free, right? You know,
Right.
I think it's.
That's right.
I was having a conversation not long ago with a family member saying, a lot of people say to you, hey, really proud of what you're doing for this person or that community. It's like, say, I'm not helping nobody. I'm not being a savior to nobody. I'm out there fighting for the liberation of myself and others. And whatever
I
space
like
you can
that.
show up in is what space the universe opens up for you. And so I say all that to say, like, kind of reframing it. Youth work, um,
Yeah,
whatever work it is, it's serving. But
that's
for me,
good.
and I can be wrong. I can be wrong, but trying to serve the greater good.
That's good, and it is. You're leaving a legacy. Your beautiful baby,
Mm,
she's getting a legacy indeed with
mm,
that. Now let me ask you this.
yes.
What is the most important part of what you do? We've kind of covered a general idea that you're serving others, but what's the most important part when you go home at the end of the day?
I think what I'm learning right now in my journey, um, and again, things are cyclical, right? Life is cyclical. So things are coming up for me now, um, which, if there's any silver lining with COVID, it's having the ability to reflect. And it's
Right.
hard to always reflect when you're coming in the door and you fell into the trap of being an adult, you're raising children or answering to a wife or
Right.
a life partner, so to speak.
Right.
And
Hmm.
it's hard to come home from work and really process the day because you're
Right.
now processing your responsibilities in the form of your family. And
Right.
I think what I'm learning right now is to take a deep breath and look at I've put in
Exactly.
32 years of work, um, and where am I moving forward? Um, and wow, yeah, I think I'm just learning right now and I've done this throughout my journey. I've always tried to be reflective, be aware of what I'm feeling,
I
be
was gonna
aware of
say that.
the next.
Very reflective. Yeah. I love that
Yeah,
though.
you have to be. You have
Yeah.
to be. Sometimes, sometimes too, like depending on what roles you play in other people's lives, sometimes you can, no matter how well intentioned you are, you can play um, a very constructive and destructive role in people's lives. And I think it's important right now. What I'm learning is to really um, kind of sit back, take a deep breath, and look at how I've been moving and how I need to evolve and grow, um, and just take responsibility for myself, my actions. Um, so
That's good.
I'm in a very reflective place.
And I love it. I
I
think
think
that
it's
you're
important.
inspiring me to do the same, to look at on my journey to be whatever with this diva thing. So many people were being hurt. So many people were being left out. And there's so many stories to be told. So COVID has made me slow down
Uh-huh.
and figure out how to do that. How to make sure that I'm not leaving people behind, how to make sure that I'm aware of everyone in my paths that were put here,
Right.
Yeah, so it's
Right.
been reflective for me as well. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yep, indeed. Okay, so I'm going to move us a little bit forward with you kind of said it earlier, but I want people to really know you like I know you. So what is the most important role that you have in the Black community? Because like you said, people judge your book by the cover and they don't realize
Mm.
how deep in our community you are.
Um. Wow. Okay. So getting back to being reflective. Um, my I've most of my journey has been within the Black community. Um, Going back to how we were talking about people, and how we label people, the diaspora of Black people, right?
Right,
Um,
right, right,
nothing more diverse than the original man and woman of the earth. So, you know, I've mainly been working and residing in, how do I say? Okay, so coming from Seguin, was very comfortable because majority of the neighborhood was, you know, African American people, people
right,
of Mexican American descent, um, and so that's where I feel comfortable. So
right,
I'm trying to paint a picture. What I've learned is I have been completely embraced and completely loved, encouraged, supported, because most of my opportunities have come through this community and elders
right,
uplifting me, community members,
right,
um, giving me a chance, um, to be human. And so that part has been amazing. I think, again, going back to judging book by its cover and being reflective, where I was going with the reflective piece, because I think it's always important what I take for granted because of my white privilege is that I'm comfortable in the way I speak, the way I dress, because this is who I've always been. But it
right,
can be very offensive to other people,
right.
especially like, even just Mecca, Dave Mecca, you know,
Yeah,
how dare you call
yeah,
yourself Mecca, right? I
right.
have to stand on my principle, but I also have to take that in, right? And I have to, um, reevaluate principles and reevaluate things. Um, this isn't a bad thing or a negative thing. So taking it back to my
Right,
role in the community, um, my role is to figure out a way to keep being a good human and being authentic and showing up, um, in the spaces I need to be. I'm going to be wrong on occasions and I'm going to be right on occasions. Um,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to have, victories. Um, and being okay with being human. And but this is who I am. It's who I've always
Right.
been. And
Who you were created to be.
so
Yeah,
yeah. So
I
yeah.
believe it. I do. I do. You fit in your
I do
element
too. I
just
do
well,
too.
but I'm sure that people question it all the time. I've been around, you know, Doug Mecca. I've been around you. I know people question it. It was a part of our past, and in the
Yes.
Black community, we have a lot
Yes.
of education that we need, and that's my mission in 2021. We have a few wake up calls, and it's my job as a sister to my sisterhood and brotherhood to say, look, we have some wake up calls because it's not always going to look like what you think it's going to look like when you're looking for the support and person that's on your side. And so we have a few wake up calls that we're going to
Mm.
have to.
Hmm.
It's coming. I'm going to be that voice. I'm used to people hating me, so
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
so I'm okay with
Yes,
that.
you are.
So, Dave, let's talk about your history with South by Southwest. I remember the beginning days, and tell us how you got started and what it means to you. What key part of what you did belongs to that South by Southwest history?
Um, First off, I want to give thanks for that opportunity, to the Creator and to all the humans that were a part of that journey. Brent Grilke, rest in peace. He was the gentleman that was responsible for managing me at South by Southwest, and that was not an easy job. That was not an easy job. I went in there with an agenda, with
Right.
a roar, the loud voice about,
Wow.
racism and inequalities, and
That's
about
good.
sexism, about all the isms, and
Right.
what it was is fighting for respect for hip hop culture. And
Right.
I also want to start by saying, giving thanks to T Double, who before
Hmm.
me was producing South by Southwest, and
Right.
the Andre before him, and there were, other people that were responsible for uh, hip hop to even begin to have a presence before I got there. Um,
Right.
I think it's important that there were people from the community in Austin that pioneered the way. And so, I say that because I mean it from my heart. I
Right. You
believe
do.
that
Hmm.
that's how things happened. I was a part of that journey and the evolution of hip hop in
Right.
South by Southwest. Um, but going back to, like we said, what is your role in the Black community, um, and perceptions? There were a lot of people's perceptions about us when we were, fighting to bring people together, you know, to not just come to the conference or be a part of the conference, but that was our whole mission with hip hop, period, in Austin. There was so many amazing human beings, so many amazing artists, and so many amazing voices and minds there. Um, it's easy to get lost in the sauce of like, you're just, people not really taking you seriously or
Right.
putting you in their box to make them feel comfortable with who they think you are.
Yeah.
But who we were and
Yeah,
the
I
moves that we
did.
made at South by Southwest, who we really were we really were our brother and sister keepers. We were really bringing
I
people
love it.
along, um, to take part of that festival, and we
Right.
were there fighting for hip hop, not rap music, not MCing, but hip hop culture to be a
Right.
part of South by Southwest. And that's not excluding other people's visions. That isn't what their vision were, what people were. We're not trying to
Right.
do or any of that nature. That's who we were. And so the
Yeah.
first year, um, oh, I got to also acknowledge and start off by acknowledging again Dave Thompson from South by Southwest. We got a phone call from Mike Henry from the Electric Lounge, um, who was a huge supporter of hip hop. Wouldn't have been around if it wasn't for Mike Henry. But those are the two minds that were like, you need to do South by Southwest. And they had to convince Brent Brokey, which I'm sure Brent, God bless his soul, like I said, I'm sure he did not know what he was getting into. Um,
Right.
because, you know, the whole thing was, okay, guys, you got to book this conference. Um, people are not gonna, people don't, people pay to come to this. So I got
Right.
to get on the phone and try to like, first, I got to come up with a collective mind, like, okay, where are you going with this? When you book it,
Right.
how do you see the next year and the next year and the next year? That's where my
Right.
thinking was. And
Yeah.
so it's like, man, how do I call artists and go, we're not paying for you to come here, but we want you to
I
come
know.
here. You
But
don't
there's
get
this
no artist
opportunity
guarantees,
that could
right?
happen. Yes.
There's
Yeah,
this
I remember
opportunity that
my
can
little
happen.
small role with that. It was so hard to tell people, look, you guys are not going to be paid, but I have these guys, Dave and Doug, and they're going to
Right,
give me an hour block. And if you just get up there, I'd always throw in, there might be a music exec, they may come in or not. Just get up there and do your thing.
right.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and South by Southwest was always, I guess, seen as like a indie rock music festival.
yeah.
And so, you know, I know Erica Badu had a presence there. I think with Andre T
Right,
Double,
yeah,
or one of those guys
right,
that brought Wu Tang and Erica Badu and different. So
yeah,
there was, if they would have got behind those brothers, they had the capacity and ability to blow it up just as we did. Um,
exactly.
so what helped was my skin color. You know, I think that was
Right,
a huge piece.
right.
I think, you know, I came in there and I raised hell, I cursed people out, I talked dirty to people, because I was so
Yeah,
insulted that, that they didn't see, like, hip hop is not, it's
Yeah.
not like it's not like your culture, it's not like your music, it's not how you approach things. Like, this is a
Yeah.
revolution. And you know, anyways, get past
But
all
you
that,
had, it's
you know.
okay. You had a time that at that time when you were making this fight, Dave, the F the police was really political during that time frame. So there was a lot going on to be scared of hip hop for certain leaders and financing people in that time. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, race is on the mind of white people. You know, it always escapes me when we start. You're right. You're
yeah,
right in what you're saying.
yeah,
For me, my perceptions were completely different. I'm living in the community. I'm comfortable. I see things from a different perspective. You know, so credit to Brent because he pulled. Side by Side was pulled some foul stuff in the beginning, and that's
right,
why I was like, no, 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 no. Raw, right? And then to
right,
his credit, and to the credit of leadership of South by Southwest, they listened. They gave us a chance on all levels. You know, they were
hmm,
like, look, if you make a success of this, well, they weren't paying us the first year, but they reimbursed us for what we spent.
that's
And
good.
that was a good faith move. And then the
Yeah,
next year, they gave us a salary position, which Doug took that salary position. And I just said, here's the game plan from my perspective for the next year, because this is what I built the first year into the second year for. But, you know, go with whatever you think. And so together he ran lead on it. We produced the second
yeah,
year, and
yeah,
what the next year after that.
yeah,
Um, but we turned that festival. I think what I think I like people to know is that South by Southwest was, it's like a 7 night festival. 5 or 7
yes.
nights and
Ooh.
of showcases. You know,
Yeah,
not just there's other nights, there's other weeks of the interactive and things. But when it came to the mini
right,
festival, hip hop
right.
usually had one night, one show. And we did our first year. We did one night, 4 stages,
Hmm.
um, and 3 inside, one outside. We had all the elements of hip hop represented. And then, the subsequent years following, we had multiple shows on multiple nights um,
Right,
throughout the week. We had a presence at the trade show. We had presence in the film festival. We had a presence in the conference itself.
right.
So I know seeds were already planted, like I say, from
Yes, indeed.
the men before us, but we definitely built upon, his seeds and grew it to be what I say it is today was our vision. What part of our vision is what's going on today. I don't
Right.
I don't I can't speak on it because I don't go to South by Southwest. That chapter of my life is over. I've evolved and grown.
The, yeah, the
But
last time I went, I could afford South by Southwest. So, no, I'm joking.
you could have
Like,
what?
I mean, I said I could afford it then. Like, it's so expensive of a festival now. Like, it's
Right,
expensive.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's changed. Yeah.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
It's a monster.
Indeed. So switching gears a little bit because we talked about it earlier, Dave, but can you share with my viewers your trauma response work?
Mm, okay. Um, so, speaking of journeys, um, you know, when around the time, what was it, President Bush, um,
George
his
W.
son
Okay.
became
Mm-hmm.
president. Yeah, George W. Um, that was what, 2002, right?
He became president November 2004, right? No, he was the second term was 2004. He was president before that, right? Do I have that right?
2002,
I think, yeah.
yeah. So 2000, yes. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. So
Yeah.
in around 2004, it was his second term. And
Hmm.
I think I was saying to you last time we spoke that, um, it depends on what party is in office is when there's money in the community or not, right?
My
Um,
previous guest
for
just said the same thing. Wow.
it's
Mhm.
it's amazing. Um, anyways, either way, it's the same coin, just different sides, right? So around right before Obama, things were getting pretty desperate in our
Right.
work in the community, and I remember me and my man had a hip hop program we had pretty much since 2002. Um, Around 2007, we had to close up. 2008, we had to begin to start closing up the programs that I was running. I was running residential programs,
Mhm.
and one of the programs was for gunshot victims in wheelchairs,
Mm.
young men, and
Right.
had another independent living program. And so we closed those probably around 2009. I remember I got a job. There was nothing out there. It was almost like the COVID. Like now, it's like there was no work,
Recession. Mhm.
and
Yeah, it was bad.
I,
Mhm.
I I had to I had to take a job that was like half of what I'm used to making because I'm used to hustling everywhere and running these programs, having my own thing going on, and it was a great opportunity. But when that summer was over with, it turned into I'm walking down the street. What was it? Yeah, I'm walking down the street with actually one of my young men that I'm working with at the residential program. He was in his wheelchair,
Right.
and the sister drove by me and was like, "Mecca, I need you." And I was like, "Oh, I." One of the sisters that we had done a hip hop program at another community center in Dorchester, and
Right.
she goes, "Look, I'm starting this trauma outreach program for Children's Hospital at the Martha Elliott Health Center, which is the first health center, by the way, in the United States that was developed, and it was developed by the community in
Okay.
partnership with Children's Hospital. So,
Wow. Wow. That's
yeah, so
powerful. Yeah.
the matriarch of the housing development there, Brown Heath, Mildred Haley, is uh, one of the leading voices that helped develop that amazing woman, amazing elder. God bless her. So she just passed recently, Mildred Haley,
Wow.
but God bless her. She did a lot for me on my journey. And speaking of which, she was the leading person to work with children's on getting this community trauma team together. Um,
Wow.
and so that's who I came to help develop that program and being their outreach worker and being their consultant on knowing how to, reach out to the community and provide
Right.
services and you know, give feedback on what I'm learning about the work. And so, the job was eyes and ears open up to anything that's going on in the community. So getting out there
Right.
and outreaching, getting, you know, people in the community to trust you to be like, look, so and so shooting at my son, can you help out with that? Then the other part of the job was not just trying to do that violence interrupting work. Um, and I did that together with like street workers, pulling in other resources in the community to to do that work. But then it was like, shootings and stabbings, when they happen, respond, to the scene.
Right.
Um, we would get
Wow.
notifications to go to the scene. So, that would just be trying to like, psychological first aid, trying to just,
Right.
stabilize those who are affected, that, getting to the family, supporting them from Jump Street, So
Right.
if the person survived, it's collecting information on, what hospital this person went to and getting the family there and getting them, good communication with the hospital. And, if it's someone passing, then, it's we had a whole nother system to help families go through that
Right.
process of burying their child or their loved one. Um,
Mm.
so that trauma work turned into me going and doing that kind of work for the city street workers, their trauma response, and because it's all the same work, you know.
Right.
And then
Right.
that turned into a hospital, um, Brigham and Women's at Harvard Medical School called me and were like, "Hey, we want to interview you." At the time, I was like, "Man, I ain't trying to hear nothing from no institution. I'm out here on this block.
Right.
I was a street
Right.
worker. I'm like,
Right.
I'm good." Um, and so, I was always known for having my own programs, doing my own thing. I really wasn't like
Right.
interested. But that relationship there, definitely catapulted me into where I'm at now, which is, you know, kind of still rocking in all those same worlds, but doing it
Right.
on a different level. Not having to be out on the block at 3 o'clock in the morning having conversations with
Right.
one
Right.
neighborhood about, look, we got 18 people shot in your hood this year so far, and all of them are innocent victims. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
that neighborhood's got around the same number of people that you go back and forth with. So can we have a conversation, or going in with surgeons to tell a child, to tell a mother, that her son is fine or her son is dead, you know,
Ouch.
um, and
Ouch.
dealing
Like,
with
oh
that
my
energy every
God.
day. Now, yeah,
How do
yeah,
you not,
yeah,
and you still
yeah.
have this passion for people. I've seen people in that business, not I
Hmm.
don't know them or know that world, but that seem to have lost like they're cold. What's the word? Complacent, numb. How did you not go into that numb?
Yeah.
I mean, not saying every shooting is the same, every stabbing is the same, but you know,
um. Okay. Two things. One, what a lot of people don't know about me is I'm a survivor of gun violence, and I'm a survivor of just community violence. Period. As I think a lot of us growing up in certain environments are. Um,
right,
and so the healing process I've gone through over the years with that, it's a shocker to me that I've even got into this work so deeply.
exactly,
But it's a true testament of the work I've done on myself as a human being. So I'm
right,
I work in trauma, but I'm not trauma. I
okay,
don't even like drama. I don't even like drama in my life.
right,
You know,
right.
so so I think a lot of times, you know, the old saying, I say the old saying, um, um, how's it go? Um, I'll come back. I'll come back to that.
That's okay, but I love that you
But
are not you're not your work. So I love that.
I mean, I,
And
I mean,
people who
I
are
am
dramatic
completely,
probably
but
couldn't be
not.
in that field.
Um, well, I think, well, to answer your question, why do people? Okay, the old saying, you are a sum total of your life experiences.
Right,
So I'm wired to be who I am, right?
right.
Um, and that doesn't make anybody less than or me better than. I think we're all wired to be something, and
Right,
I know I'm wired to be multiple things. And I think
right,
sometimes I also learned early on in doing community work, um, you know, being young, gung ho, change the world, you know, uh,
mhm,
then
mhm.
realizing it's not the world that needs to be changed. We need to change what's inside us, right?
That's good.
And
That's
I
good.
learned what burnout
Yeah.
was. So I learned the difference between being overworked, tired, and then burnt out. And then,
Right.
you know, I went through years of just working on myself. So now I'm at a place where it's like, I know I'm firmly rooted in knowing who I am,
That's
what I've been
good.
through. And so, as trying as it is, because it hurts deeply to do this work at times, um, it's I've learned enough self care
That's good.
and to keep me fresh, you know.
That's good. That's good. And I think that that is it because you have to take care of yourself in that work that you do. In
Yeah.
saying that, this COVID-19, the pandemic, the coronavirus, how has it impacted the work that you do?
Well, right now, um, I'm completely um, jobless. Um, I just I had a contract that was going to be renewed. Their funders backed out on
Wow.
various different projects that this
Right.
organization
Oh,
had hired me to work to build this violence recovery program in Connecticut. And so the hospital itself, when COVID first hit, um, they tightened their purses up, you know,
oh
their
wow.
wallets, their
Oh,
purses. And
that's not a good thing to do on the work you
yeah,
do.
so
Yeah.
no, in Boston, those programs exist. They're operating. People have jobs. It's a
Yeah.
necessity. They have a commitment to it.
Yeah.
But this was a new environment, and you had a community organization that was doing that work in the community, and they're still doing it.
Right.
But they're not responding to the hospital I was working with them on because COVID. But they're doing that work.
Wow.
They're responding to the incidents itself. And
Okay.
right now, to say
Hmm.
what has been the effect of COVID, I mean, anytime you have, like we were talking earlier about, different administrations in office, anytime you have, economic, struggles on a whole nother level, that everyone is facing, violence goes up,
Right.
crime goes up, and
Domestic.
stress
Yeah.
goes up,
Yeah.
trauma goes
Yeah.
up,
Yeah. Yeah.
domestic
That's
violence
very
goes up,
true.
you
Very
know?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. That I mean, the pandemic has so many. We could probably go on and on because it has so many areas that it's
Yeah.
hurt so many things, not just
So many
the
people.
virus, and so it's just hurt so many people financially,
Yeah.
domestically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to move on because I don't want them to push us out the way, and we're going to do a part two, you guys, because he's amazing. I told you we can't get enough of him, and I can't fit
Thank you.
him all into 1 hour. It's just not who he is. So, Dave, let's hear your thoughts as we have over throughout the interview about your injustice in your thoughts on injustice in Black America, the Black Lives Matter
Hmm.
movement, and the pain that is
Hmm.
consistently being faced in the Black community.
Wow, that's a lot. Um, it's a lot because let's just cut to the chase. I think it's been there's so anyone know of wise intelligent
I
from the
saw a
four righteous
clip.
teachers.
I saw a clip that you shared with me. Right.
Yes,
Hmm.
I think it's important to understand that white people need to wake up and do their part. Black people have been doing their part by existing and surviving and thriving in America.
Right.
It's
Right.
like it's like the complete catch 22. It's the Pandora's box of you know hatred on human beings for 401 years,
Oh, yes,
uh,
indeed.
and that's just by some record, right? I'm sure I can have different conversations with you about historical record, but
Hmm.
White's
Hmm.
intelligence was
Yeah.
talking about you had I don't know how many years of slavery, and then you had Jim Crow. You had 200 years,
Right.
260 something years of slavery, 265
Right.
years, 266 years of slavery, chattel slavery, and then you had another 100 years of Jim Crow, and then
Right.
you had he said black people have had maybe 50, 60 years of moving around in somewhat of a free state. I mean,
Somewhat.
somewhat, and so I say all that to say, like, That's why it's important too, as human beings, that we're being reflective right now. We're really looking, and we stop time for a second.
Mhm.
You have a time to digest what is real, because the truth of the matter is the tip of the iceberg is George Floyd. Um,
Right.
the tip,
Breonna Taylor. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep on with the names. I'm sitting here
Yeah.
going through all the names in my heart
It's
right now and in my
sad.
head.
It's sad.
Emmett Till, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so it's time to make a great leap. You always hear from the elders. Me and my mom have this conversation. Keep putting a brick in the wall. Keep laying your bricks. Keep building
That's good.
the best. Show up in the space. We as human beings are trying to do, hopefully, what we can for our brothers and sisters, for humankind. Truth of the matter is you know, one of the big things that bothers me about my work is that at the end of the day, as much as I value what I've done and respect all the people I work with, systematically, it's still just poverty pimping. It's
Hmm.
still driven by racism. And I play a role in that. And so
Hmm.
I make a living off of Black Death, put it bluntly. Let's be real.
Yeah, if you look at
Right.
it that way, but
So,
if you didn't do what you do, it wouldn't. You have to have people in the community that care because the
yeah, but
bigger
let's be,
side of the medical part, they're not going to care about that.
look, the beautiful thing about, I'm not dishonoring the human beings that I've come in contact with and done great work with. I'm honoring the truth by saying that regardless of how many beautiful, amazing human beings show up and try to do the best we can to be human and to be loving and to be supportive, we still, you know, like Wise Intelligence was talking about, it's one thing to hear the word redlining. It's another thing to really understand that what banks were calling the areas that were redlined, which is where black and brown people live, right? Divestment
Right,
zones, dead zones. They weren't investing,
right,
you know. So, black people have never been allowed to be human beings in this country. Um,
facts,
and I'm just going to touch on the
facts.
United States. This is a worldwide problem. Colonialism, in my opinion, it's not in the history books. It's of the present. It's just the evolution of the colonial
Facts.
process.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to take a look at that, not just like, oh, interesting. No, we need to open our eyes because we see it every day and
Right.
acknowledge it and correct it. And um, I believe that we are, but I have to be honest and say, you know, um, what I believe, what I think, Black Lives Matter movement. Um, that's what I have to say about the Black Lives Matter movement. We need to. Wow, it's so much. It's so
I
much.
know. I know.
I watch eh, I watch what you know. Uh, unfortunately, I just got out of an amazing relationship. I had this amazing woman in my life for like 5 years. Um, but the
Look
point
how
I'm trying to
amazing you
make
are
is
to
is is
say
is
that you just got out of a relationship and you called her amazing. If you don't know who you are, Dave Mecca, men usually don't use the word amazing about their ex. That's awesome. Yeah.
well, you don't stop loving people. But the point I'm trying to make is that um, watching her as a black woman every day and hold space with her, it's every day. Being black is exhausting, isn't it?
Every damn day. It's
Right?
exhausting every damn day. Every day that I clock in and I have to listen to this condescending, wishing that my show would just do something amazing where I wouldn't have to work and be talked to in that manner. And
Right.
I have to listen to it and I have to not. respond to it, because when we respond, if we do it too harshly, then they call the police and it becomes some old. So I have to
Yeah.
just sit and be talked to in the most awful way. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'll end that part of the conversation with saying that until white people, and I'm not, look, I'll make it clear. Yes, there have been many allies, but forget being an ally. I need white people to be co-conspirators until enough white people wake up and go. And it's hard. I mean, for me, uh, it's been hard for me trying to figure out how I fit in all this every day.
Right.
Uh, but we need to wake up collectively and do something to change this because, um, 72 million people have voted for Trump. 73, right? 74. Yeah, 74 million people voted for Donald Trump.
That's a big problem, people.
That's that, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
White people think, you know, uh, like when they have to live outside of their privilege, we think that it's oppression. And until we
Right.
get over that, we're going to keep oppressing others. It's in our blood. It's what we do everywhere all over the world. We dominate,
Right. That's
you
right.
know, and
That's true.
that's. I wrote a paper in high school. I'll end my voice in this because we're about to end the hour. I wrote a paper in high
Okay.
school, and it was about saying about slavery and about racism, about the legacy of it. That we're disrespecting, as God says, do not disrespect your mother and father. We're disrespecting our mothers and fathers of civilization.
Right.
That
Exactly.
in itself is just drop the mic, walk off. And that's what it is.
And that's where the curse is, indeed. Indeed. You know what? Tell us how to find you. I know how to find you, but tell the viewers how to find you on social media, Instagram, etc.
Well, I'm Dave Mecca at Instagram, and I'm Dave Mecca on Facebook, and
Okay.
yeah.
But find him at Dave Mecca, and to lighten up the note just a little bit, even though we live in a world that's so full of so much dark. What's the most adventurous thing that you've done in your life, and have you went and did that recently to give yourself just a little self-care? What's the most adventurous?
You know what? I've lived a very adventurous life, but the most adventurous, satisfying adventure I've had was when my daughter was almost a year and a half, like a year and 3 months or something.
Hmm.
I was my my life partner at the time was like, we got to get her off the breast. So take her to Barbados because that's where she's from. Take her to Barbados, go see my mom.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
so I went down there for 12 days. It was
Wow.
just me and my daughter. And
Yeah.
and that was that was the most amazing, adventurous thing I'd ever done was to get on a plane with my baby girl and go to Barbados and spend 12 amazing days with her and,
Awesome.
explore the island and explore
Hmm.
her and just, yeah.
That's
So I haven't
beautiful.
done that recently.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I've been
Right.
separated from her for years and
I'm
we've been in
sorry.
a
Okay.
custody battle has not been the best because, people get caught in their feelings and
Yeah.
they want to hurt you.
Use the
And so
children
I haven't had
to,
access
yeah.
to my daughter to do that. And so hopefully within the next couple of years, she and I can. I'm looking forward to many adventures with my daughter because she's amazing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I want to say too, I'll be remiss. I'm still a father to my stepdaughter, uh, Power. And so
So amazing.
we didn't mention her. I mentioned her in the beginning, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm committed to that relationship. She's an
That's
amazing.
so
By
good.
the way, my girls are born 3 days apart from each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
probably going to be
yeah,
besties when they get a little older in those teen
yeah,
years.
yeah.
So,
They're already,
yeah.
they're already, they're already besties. You know, it's just
Yeah.
I got to keep that relationship alive. You know.
Absolutely. And you will. We wish you the best with that. To all the mothers out there, I talk to you guys all the time. This is the other side of what you do when you use. But yeah, we wish you the best with that. Like I want you to have the best long-term relationship with your baby. Indeed. Indeed.
And I will,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
will. You
Thank
just
you,
got to
Dave
get through the
Mecca,
hurt and
for
pain
giving me
sometimes.
your time. I appreciate you. I'm gonna part two you
I'm
because we
honored.
have to. I've got to get Doug on. I think I should have both of you guys on the screen because I think it's gonna be a lot. I need all of you, Scooter and Z and the whole
Yeah, that'd
crew.
be cool.
We have a lot to talk about.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Awesome.
We definitely need to dive in. We definitely need to dive in more about racism too. Just me and you,
Absolutely. Yes,
and
we
talk.
do. We have to talk. And these are uncomfortable conversations, but if we don't do it, as the baby said in the best words I've heard all year, George Floyd's baby said, Daddy changed the world. We owe it to that child for
Yeah,
that to be forever
yeah.
true. We do. Yeah, we do.
And we owe it. We owe it. We owe it not just to her and to all these. You know, the Ahmaud Arbery.
Hmm.
We got a lot to talk about. Let's get
We're gonna come back.
let's
We're
get
gonna
up
come
soon
back.
and let's talk.
Yeah, let's come back and we can really talk directly about that because the things that I've seen happen on a video this year, it's time. So I'll bring you back before the end of
Right.
the year because I
Yeah.
want to have that conversation before 2021.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. We appreciate you, and Honey and I will see you next
Thank you.
year. Yeah,
Appreciate you.
thank you.
Love.
Love.